Boom.
Carrie, what's going on?
What's going on, Stefan? How are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm blessed. I can't complain. Can't
Man, I'm
complain.
so glad you took time tonight for me. I appreciate you.
Oh, ain't no problem. You know I got you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this topic because it has been like so freaking present.
A lot of people deal with it, including
Yeah.
us. So,
Yeah, and I'm interested in getting a male's perspective because it's so funny how I've been talking to a lot of women lately, and they tell me it's like we forget that men could possibly have body image issues. You
yeah,
know? Yeah. It's not like something that's regularly discussed.
yeah. We like to think that it's only specific to one gender or one person, but it's across everything. It bleeds into every section. No matter what you look like, who you are, like anybody can deal with body image issues.
Yeah, and you know what was fascinating is I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and he was sharing with me. I was like, "Well, how does body image like? How does that show up for men?" And that's what I'm curious about. So I'm curious, and he gave me a couple of things. Like he said, it can show up as like balding, um, penis size, right? Like height, like it shows up in different ways. And I was like, "Oh wow, I'd never really considered those things." Because for me, it's a totally different experience. So how does it show up for you?
Um, oof. So starting out, it was like more of an acceptance thing.
Okay.
So like I've always been a heavy set guy. Like I don't even know what it's like to be less than 200 pounds. So the thing that started for me was like, okay, I looked in the mirror and it's like I'm analyzing myself and I'm like, okay, like you're fat. Okay, let's move forward. And the thing about it is like that was the only thing that people could joke with me on or like try to get under my skin with. Like they could never insult my intelligence. They could never insult who I was being because I was always a genuine person and am a genuine person. So for a while, like it didn't matter to me, like being fat never stopped anything. But then as I got older, like it was one instance I was dealing with this young lady and like she never wanted to give me a shot because of my weight. And to me, that I really loved, like I was in love with her. Like even though we never were intimate or like, but we had conversations and like it was, good intellectual conversations. But the thing that always, she was like, no, you're just, you're too big for me. And it's like, damn. So that one instant started to play on my mind and say, like, this is where your value lies. Like, no other woman is going to see you as valuable because of your size.
Ooh.
And man, it was hurt, because it was
Yeah.
like something that I felt that I had tackled at a young age. Like, okay, like if you want to going to be big, you're going to be a heavyset guy. Like, you're always going to be clean. You're always going to be, presented a certain way. And even though I was doing that, that still wasn't enough for this one person that I really thought that I could build this life with. So that one instant started to play with the value in my head of, okay, like if your body's not up to par for her, then anybody else is not going to see you as valuable, regardless of what you bring to the table.
Oh, that's really powerful. And so I'm assuming that would definitely affect your self-esteem and your self-confidence, especially with talking to women.
Oh, most definitely. Like
Yeah.
I went from the guy who guys were like, man, how you go talk to her? I'm like, man, she's just another woman, bro. Like, just go talk to her. Like they like to laugh, they like to eat, so just go make them laugh. And then, if you're in a bar, get them a drink. If anything like that, like put a smile on their face. And like women love to eat, like get her some food, and you got her. And that was the thing. But when it started to play on, when I started to play on my weight being a factor, it was like, okay, like before I even go talk to her, it's like she's gonna see me as just this fat guy. Like she's not gonna be interested. Like I started psyching myself out of the game before interaction was even being held.
Ooh, so
So
you were choosing for her.
facts. Like I was writing the story, like choosing the ending, and it ended before I ever even tried.
Mm.
And it took this, man, that happened for a long time. Like and it still plagues me, even to this day, to where like I'll go and work out for a time period and I'll get results. And I'm like, okay, I'm slimming down, I'm doing it. And then from that, like women will be like, oh, well, look at you. Like they'll start vibing with me more. And, anybody else, like any of my friends will be like, oh, well, man, like they're vibing with you. They like seeing you, like, okay, I need to continue to do this work. But in my head, it was like, okay, well, I'm the same person I was when I had the weight. So what is different about me now other than just appearance that you find valuable? And
Ooh, so then you start to question them.
yes, and I start to question even my values or what I found valuable inside myself. And it was like, okay, like I was always the person who would see like the Ricky Lake shows or Jerry Springer shows, and it'd be like a fat person or a heavyset person, and it'd be like, oh, well, I eat because I'm fat, and I'm fat because I eat, and it's a vicious cycle, and nobody loves me because I'm fat. And I would always laugh. I was like, man, people love me because I'm fat. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that has no factor in it. But over time and with experiences, that started to be a factor with me. And like you said, it played into my self esteem. It played into like me even trying. So
And you know what I find interesting is you actually are using the word fat, and a lot of people have a negative connotation around that. And so I'm curious why you use that word. Have you learned to give it a different interpretation? Because the reality is, words are just words.
correct.
It's the meaning that we
Right.
give the word. So and I noticed that you were using that, and I was like, oh wow, I wonder if you have shifted the meaning behind that from being something negative to a positive now.
Well, it's just at first I had heard I think it was Monique. She's a comedian, and she was like, I'm fat, baby. And like she embraced it. And I was like, yes, like I love that. And then she was like, y'all don't know what fat is. And she was like, PHAT, pretty hot and tempting. I was like,
Oh my
yes,
god, I love
like
that.
I'm with that all the way. So, but the thing about it is, whether you want to use the F word, fat or PH fat, like it's just a word, and
Right.
it has as much power as you give to it.
Yes.
Like younger me, would have, that fat word had a completely different connotation. It was like, oh, now you're attacking me. Like I'm
Yep.
triggered now. Now I got to talk about your mama. I got to talk about how you came up. I got to talk about your grades. I got to talk about, because like I don't, I could go beyond your physical appearance. Yeah, I'm gonna hit
Hmm.
you where it hurts because you hurt me. But now it's like, hey, you fat. I'm be like, I mean, that's your perception. But the thing about it is, when I go to the doctor, they tell me I'm healthy as an ox. They tell me, I could do whatever I want to do. Like I can walk however far I want to walk. You feel me? Running, you got me on that. But that's because I don't chase nobody. But but
I love how you just did that.
but yeah, like it's all about your perception and really appreciating who you are and where you're at in your life right now.
Hmm.
And that's the thing with any type of body image issue. It's coming getting to a point where saying, yeah, this may be a factor that I have, but this is not who I am. This doesn't define me.
Yeah.
Like you can call me fat, but I mean what does that mean to you?
Right, right.
I mean,
And I love the way that you shifted your definition. I think that's amazing. And also, as you're sitting here talking, I'm like, wow, so for me, my body image would come up a lot, and because it was something I could control. I was
hmm
overweight, and then I learned that, oh, I can control this with like diet and exercise. And then, part of my story is, learning that I tested positive for herpes, having multiple abortions, not being able to have children, like all these things. In my head, I had deemed myself like tainted, right? Like I'm
hmm
tainted. Nobody will ever want me. It all played into my self-worth. And the only thing that I could control was my physical appearance.
mm,
And and that was what I learned to manipulate with. So I would do like fitness competitions so that I had a goal. Like I had 3 months to bust my ass to look a certain way. And
hmm
so that would keep me on track to get to that end result. And then you only look that way for 8 hours. I mean, it's just like, and that's it, you know? But if you gave me a trophy and said that I won and that I was pretty, then I was like, okay, cool. I'm accepted. Like, I felt worthy in that moment. But it went away just like that. And that like plagued me for years.
and do you know why it went away though? It went
Oh yeah,
away. Well, tell me, come
spirits
on, because
away.
I know you got the answer.
Yeah, because it was all about like I didn't love who I was. I was looking for external validation for everyone else to tell me. And it was
Big facts.
I didn't see it.
Big facts.
Yeah. And
If you
I
don't
was
see it
looking
in
for
yourself,
everything else.
nobody else is gonna see it.
Yep.
Like if you're always looking for outside validation on somebody to tell you that pat on the back or that, thing like, hey, you really made it. Like, nah, don't expect that to come. Because even when it comes, like you could choose not to believe it. You could be so deep in your story of how unworthy you are and how you look like shit. Excuse my language, but you could tell yourself that so much that that's actually what you believe.
Yeah.
And no matter who comes along and they're genuine and they're really like you're beautiful and like you're handsome or any compliment or acknowledgement that they throw your way, you're like, okay, thank you. And then it's like back to that story of I ain't shit.
Yeah. It's about not knowing how to receive, not
Facts.
being in the receiving mode. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's all about, what I think. And so I would constantly be in that space of um, just trying to fix the outside. And because I didn't want to deal with the fact that, hey, maybe you should look at the abortions that you had, or maybe you should look at the fact that you test positive for herpes. Like these things are really affecting you and you're avoiding them. And so it
hmm
was it was a way to avoid them. I can distract myself with going to the gym and dieting and doing a competition. That way I don't have to go inside and look at all that other shit. That shit's scary.
Yeah, because you wanted to put off the perception that you don't have what you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Because, like looking at a person, you can't tell whether they have a STD or whether they have this, a disease or whether they're dealing with